Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live stream special. That's right, we're going all global today. I'm in the UK, but all the way from the US of A, we're going to be talking about super cool stuff that definitely interested me. Now, algorithms, I'm kind of a bit rusty. However, I've got two guests that are experimenting on the bleeding edge of computational design and also putting it into practice in real life. So we got, academics super cool, but how does it translate into buildings and all the things that come along with it? So from Perkins&Will, I have two awesome guests. So to my right is Mario.
Hello.
How are you, Mario? Are you okay?
I'm doing swell. Thanks for having me here.
The pleasure's all mine. And below me, oh my gosh, sorry, the camera's mirrored. I always get that wrong. I've got the Nirmala, also from Perkins&Will. How are you? Are you okay?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having us on this podcast. It's exciting.
The pleasure's all mine. Now, while we've got to know each other a little bit before, maybe you can just quickly introduce yourself to the audience in case they've not met you at all. So, Mario, tell me quickly a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you get up to architecturally.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Mario Romero. I'm a digital practice and computational design lead here at Perkins&Will. We'll go a little bit more into what that actually means throughout the course of this live stream. But for the most part, I've had about a 17-year-long career. Started at a super tall skyscraper design firm and moved over to a phenomenal Perkins&Will position here.
Awesome. And you also have the super cool camera, which makes you look like Liam Nielsen. You're just going around there.
Exactly right.
I've got to get that camera after this. But no, really appreciate you being here. And Nirmala, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm not quite as technically cool as Mario, but
that's not true at all.
What do you do? So I am a project manager at Perkins&Will, and really what I do day to day is actually manage design. And so I'm an architect by training. I do interior design, and sort of I do corporate work. I do hospitals. So anything that involves interior architecture is sort of where my strength is. And I've been with Perkins&Will since 2017, and I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Just like some really cool projects that I've had the opportunity to work on. So it's been pretty awesome.
Nice. And you've actually made this show very easy because we've got a bit of eye candy. And it wouldn't be, architects, we have our eyes, there's a sense, there's a smell, there's all that stuff. But if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to bring up the presentation because I think that might illustrate to everyone a little bit about what Perkins&Will, the projects look like, and the company. But just in case no one knows Perkins&Will, or maybe they're early in their career or what have you, can you give me a little bit of a flavor of the practice and the ethos?
Yeah, Nirmala, do you want
to? Okay, yeah, I can take this one. So Perkins&Will is sort of a global firm where we have offices. We have several offices in the US, and then we are also spread across the globe, right? We have offices in London, a lot of offices in Northern Europe, and then we're looking to branch out into Asia. And we're a practice that focuses really on design excellence. I mean, that's kind of where our strength lies. It doesn't matter the size of project you're working on or the kind of project you're working on. The foundational aspect of everything we do is design excellence. And that's kind of what drives and motivates most of us. We focus heavily on design, and then we take that element of design excellence and translate it into the built space, into the documents, into kind of our interactions with clients. And so it's a pretty unique cultural way of looking at things, but it is the basis of everything we do. In Mario, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I brought up this slide specifically. I always like kind of showcasing this because Perkins&Will is huge. We're large. We're over 2,800 people at this point, actually. So this slide is slightly older. But we always consider ourselves our local studios, but a world lab. And really what that means is that, we have the capability of, having a deep pool of resources as well as expertise. So being able to kind of talk to my colleagues in Copenhagen who I know are researching deeply in carbon neutral or carbon negative materials, and bringing that kind of research and that applied research on board to other projects that I'm aware of or privy of or working on in, say, Calgary or Charlotte, I think is really one of the fundamental strengths that Perkins&Will brings to bear as an architectural design practice.
And, just one more thing to add to that, I think that's really what allows us to keep our design excellence, is because we have the ability to reach out to colleagues when we have a challenge, right? When we have a design challenge, we don't limit ourselves to the studio we're working in. We say, okay, maybe our studio doesn't quite know how to solve this challenge. Who in the firm can we reach out to get this? And we have several centers of excellence. So we have one for healthcare, we have one for corporate. And so we reach out and then you get connected. And so, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to be able to just tap into the breadth and the depth of the expertise that we have within the firm.
Absolutely.
Great.
And that's primarily the reason that Nirmala and I have worked together ever since starting specifically on this project, is that prior to this, we know of each other everywhere at Perkins&Will. We try as much as we can to kind of interconnect ourselves. But I'm pretty sure Nirmala has seen my face, but never had kind of had a conversation with me prior to this kind of work that we did.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, they look great projects as well. So what's this project in the background then? So Perkins&Will do a lot of really cool offices, right? And is there other typologies of projects that you do as well?
So foundationally, I think we're a educational firm. That's where we began in Chicago, all those years and years ago. Yeah, and then the leadership chose to diversify, right? And it's a sustainable practice to maintain when you diversify, because if there's for any reason, and there can be several, if one sector isn't doing as well, then the other sectors are able to support and maintain the firm. And so we have a really diverse portfolio, and we go from education to corporate work, to hospitality, and our hospitality is maybe not as large, but education, corporate, aviation, civic and commercial, and healthcare. The Texas studio is primarily healthcare. So it's a pretty diverse range of project typologies that we work on. And I love it, because I came to Perkins&Will as a primarily corporate interiors experience. And then I've had the good fortune to work on aviation and healthcare and education. So, it's really cool. It's
Wow.
really cool.
Okay. Fair enough. And now, Mario, tell me if should I let you crack on with the presentation?
Yeah,
or shall I start?
for sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. I to kind of cinch this all up, I think and getting into kind of computational design, I think because Perkins&Will has such a broad portfolio of both typological work that we do, as well as kind of the scale at which we work on, computational design isn't just a novelty for us. It's part and parcel to how we actually get work done, iterate on that work, and deliver it to our clients in an exceptional way. So it's a part of our lineage in terms of a practice based out of research. It's a part of our understanding of how we design and how we construct for the built environment. All that to say, Nirmala, what was this project?
Okay, so this was a project we were building for a tech client. We were trying to build a campus for them, and this was right before COVID. So early 2018, we started work on this project.
And great time, man, guys.
Oh my goodness, great timing. But it was not a client based in Dallas, so it was, slightly remote. So that there was a lot of getting to know one another. But it was a tech campus. It was being built in two phases. We built phase one, and then we started work on phase two. And the two buildings are connected. And so what you're looking at over here and on the screen is as you're coming across one of the bridge connectors from phase one into phase two. You're kind of standing on the bridge looking into phase two. And so this is a kind of central atrium space we created for them, using the stair as a connector. So we created these shifting circular openings in the slab and then wove the stair through that as the connector. And the piece that we're going to talk about today, in sort of how Mario and I came to work together on this project, really is at the top of this building. So you climb up the stairs and you come up to this space, which is on the top level, and what the client called as their lodge. It was meant to be a collaborative space. It kind of brings you to the end of the building and it overlooks downtown. And they wanted to create a space in here where mainly colleagues, because this second building is primarily employee focused. The first building had a public entrance, and this building did not. And so this was a space geared towards employees. They wanted people to come in here and work. They wanted people to come in here and relax. There's a bar element in here. So after hours drinks, happy hours, get-togethers, whatever. And so this was the space they wanted everybody to come to. And so as we kind of worked through design, they kept talking to us about the lodge. They wanted a lodge impact. They wanted a lodge feel. And ski lodges were pretty mentioned several times. And so we try to interpret what they meant by that. And this was kind of the very first sketches we pulled together. And we did this in SketchUp.
Yeah.
And so when go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of add to that a little bit. And like we're showcasing a little bit of like as we all know as architects, like we design, we iterate, we kind of propose, we sketch out, and we're working through our ideas here, right? And so like Nirmala mentioned, these SketchUp ideas they're very kind of static one shots. So you make them, you design them, you show them to the client, you document them, and then if it fails or for whatever reason doesn't necessarily work out, we kind of shove them to the side and then have to kind of rework. Sorry, go ahead, Nirmala.
Yeah. And so we put this together and we kind of presented it to the client. And the client said, "Oh, I like the idea. I don't really like this iteration of it," right? Like they looked at this and they thought, yeah. I mean, I remember, the sketch on the right, like the client looked at it and said, "That reminds me of a dinosaur backbone." And we were like, "No, that's not what we want you to feel." And so we thought, okay, how do we, how do we make this communicate what we're trying to say? Really, we were sketching on trays, but we couldn't present that. And so we went from SketchUp, we went into Revit, because that's the software we had at that point in time. We had Revit, and we started to draw in Revit. And, we got to this, and we used Revit and Enscape, and this was kind of where we got to. We several iterations. You got to remember, the previous image and this, there were several iterations in between. But we eventually got to this in a white model, which we showed to the client, and they loved it, right? Because the transformation was real. Like they could see this, they could follow it, they could understand it. But then they wanted to know, okay, well, these look really slim. What happens if you make them wider? What happens if you space them more apart? We're not sure that we like this particular curve. Could you give us a different version of this curve? And in Revit, that is almost impossible to do. Like in Revit, we had to construct every fin. It's time consuming. And when you're trying to get client buy-in, it's hard to lengthen the process, right? Like you can't have a whole bunch of time between iterations. You can't spend a whole lot of time telling the client, well, I don't know, it's going to take us a little bit of time to get this done. They want to see things quickly.
Right.
And so
I just kind of really wanted to point out like this as a sort of diagram for, I don't know, the constant headbanging that we do as architects and designers in terms of like iterating. Like,
yeah,
I mean, part of it is like we love that, right? Like, I don't think a lot of us would be in this profession if it wasn't like us cutting ourselves bleeding for the sake of the project, for the sake of the work. I know that I'm not in this profession, or I'm in this profession specifically because of that. But you know, as Nirmala was mentioning, like, and this is not to necessarily knock Revit and Autodesk too much, but I will.
I'm not.
You go for it. You're in the right place. Don't worry. They're not sponsoring this episode.
Excellent.
But if they do want to give me a ton of money, I will delete this clip. I promise.
And let's note it was Mario saying that, not me.
Yeah. This will never reach the light of day. No, carry on.
No,
I digress.
I feel free. I have plenty of folks out in Autodesk who I know personally and have good relationships with, and they know my feelings. But for the most part, like working as a computational designer, and again, we'll talk a little bit more of what that means. The term is like very large. There's an umbrella to it. It seems very technical and complex, but the reality is it's not. But it's my goal is to make sure that we constantly deliver and iterate our designs to our clients and present to them those designs in the best possible light in order to kind of showcase to them that we're listening to you, we understand your needs, your requirements, we empathize with your program, and we care about you. And so that ultimately is the kind of, to me, our big hallmark at Perkins&Will is that we care about our clients. They're like, we love our clients, right? And so this is only part and parcel to that. If we could reduce the amount of work that our design staff needs to do, if we can increase the amount of iterations that we can get through, and that's not to say that, you know, we can bang out a million different options and show our client a million different things, because there's like clients eventually, once you get past, I don't know, the joke is like 3 options. If you do more than 3 options, or if you show your clients more than 3 options, you're probably showing too much. And it's almost always like, option 1 is the worst option. Option 2 is the middle ground option. And like option 3 is the one that you want to win. And so you showcase it a little bit better, right? But the reality is that prior to kind of us, Nirmala and I working together, this is the common everyday sort of what we know as architects and designers in terms of the iterative process, right? We edit, we add, we delete, and then we remodel. And I think that last part, that remodeling part, is probably both. Not probably. I hate it. I hate having to remodel things. It sucks. Because mostly it's like you've done something, you spent, I don't know, 48, 72 hours straight on that thing. And then either a design principal or the client, God forbid, comes back and is like, actually, this is pretty hot garbage. We got to redo the whole thing. And so that's like another 8 hours of your life. Like you need to because you need to archive the model, you need to make sure that there's an iteration, or there's some history to it, and then it's just restarting all over again.
Yeah.
And you know, and in this particular instance, or this design element that was so critical for this client, because once they realized how much they liked it, like they really liked the idea of the fins, and then when they saw the white model, they really latched onto it. It was like, okay, how do we quickly iterate and show them and work with them, because we needed for it to be a collaborative process, work with them to get sign off, right? To get sign off. We really needed to get sign off. And so that's really when we said, okay, we can't do this in Revit. Who do we have? Who can help us? And then I had a colleague tell me about Mario, and you know, they'd worked with Mario on something else. And I said, okay, well, let me reach out. And we did. And I did. reached out to Mario and I said, okay, I need some help here. You know, how do we do this? And Mario jumped in and started to help us out. And do you want to maybe go to the next slide, Mario?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I think the moment that I was kind of introduced, and just so to make it clear to everyone, and because this is kind of not necessarily a tell-all, but this is just being honest about the work that we do. In terms of computational design at Perkins&Will, it's a very interesting kind of the way that we've organized both our research, our digital practice, which I think I need to explain just a little bit of what that means, because I'm not sure if, and I think this is another kind of really largely unique thing that we have at Perkins&Will. We consider the craft of digital delivery, of implementing technology and complex or advanced workflows into the way that we work in our design process to be a practice in and of itself. And fundamentally, that is kind of a different or a large shift from more traditional approaches to how architecture is practiced, where it's a very kind of top-down, bottom thing. Whereas at Perkins&Will, again, like I said, our digital practice works very closely and hand in hand with the rest of our design teams and our design staff. Yeah, exactly. And it's to ensure that what we're showcasing here, right? All of the challenges that we have in terms of working through that kind of slow, let's say, old school methodology of iterating. It's all great for producing visual studies to kind of just get an eye or like a kind of perspective look on what you're designing. But it's super, super challenging if you want more from what I'm going to term data, right? And that's kind of another kind of structural shift here, is that we're starting to understand what we deliver, what we produce, as not just a kind of drawing or line work that we are delivering in order to in order to have a sub interpret and then build off of that. We're generating data, we're making data, and so we need to continue to make sure that that data can be transformed and help us in our approach to both calculate important metrics that we care about in our project. Because I think as practitioners in architecture, there's a lot of things that we have to care about. There's a lot of understandings that we have to kind of take away. And at the same time, using that data to help us save time and iterate more. And I think the important thing with that is that, hey, at the end of the day, saving time means that we can both add more design time, because that's almost the thing that we're always striving for as architects and designers, right? Is not to say that there are some parts of this job that may be boring or I might want to do something else, but there kind of are, right? Like I don't know, the first year of my life in architecture was me in schedule world with like stair sections, like 100 different stair sections. You're like, more power to you if that's what you love. I'm grateful for you as a person, but that's not for me. And we can do so much more with that, right? And it's not just saving time to do more design. It's saving time to be able to do more work, which brings in more money, which means that we can pay our design staff. We can, continue to make sure and foster that, or make sure that our business is safe and secure. At the same time, that's what also allows, or allowing more iterations through kind of computational design workflows lets you continue to do that in a more, in a more rigorous manner. Which I think is super important, because you can't take the rigor out of architecture. And so this like notion of like break things and kind of deliver fast works in Silicon Valley. I don't necessarily think it works as well within the architecture profession, because at the end of the day, we're delivering a built environment that is meant to last for 50 to 100 years more than what we're normally used to delivering as products. And then ultimately, because we're ensuring that we're rigorous with how we're producing our data, it means that we can make better decisions faster overall.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I've got one quick question for you, Mary.
Yes,
Nirmala disappeared for a quick second. Did you panic?
I panicked for a brief second.
Bless you.
I remembered your words, like, take a breath.
No,
I don't know
it's
what
cool.
happened.
I just had a mini giggle. I was like, oh, Mario, you're going to be driving the car for a second. But no, that's
We're
great.
rolling in. We're rolling in.
This is
Yeah.
it. We rock and roll. But that's part of projects, isn't it? You got to just roll with the punches. And
Yeah, absolutely.
We do. I mean, and when this particular situation arose, we really had to figure it out quickly, right? Like,
yeah.
we had to go, okay, who we got? Who we've got who can help us? And we found Mario, and he was free. He had time at that point, because that's the other thing. You can find Mario, and he may be busy on a different
Too
project.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he wasn't, for my good luck.
Woo.
He wasn't. And so we
What
got him
Nirmala
to
doesn't
join
know
our
is that I
team.
chose her project.
Oh,
Ah,
yay,
it was
me.
worth it. It's
It was
cool.
worth it. It was
Yeah.
worth it.
Thank you.
Because what you're seeing here is kind of a top-down view of the fins. And this was kind of the first iteration or the white model view that you looked at.
Mhm.
But what Mario helped us do very quickly to get client buy-in was to take these fins and make them thicker, make them taller, change the curve. And you can see a little a snip of it here, but space them further apart, bring them closer together, like so many iterations that we were able to do quickly, and show the client what each of these versions would look like, right? Make the slats thicker, make them thinner, all kinds of versions, until we got to a point where the client said, okay, this is it. This is the one I want. This is the version that works. This thickness, this far apart, this set of curves. Let's go.
Brilliant. You're like, quick, save the file. Save it now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, truthfully, that's ultimately what it is to be a kind of, or to approach architecture as a computational designer, right? What we showed you in these like really nice little animations is a kind of diagrammatic understanding of a parameter to an actual architectural element in the real world. And really, that's all it is. Computational design is using parameters and algorithms to just drive your design constraints.
Yeah.
As simple as that. You can be a computational designer if you are using Excel and you connect it to some other kind of feature in, I don't know, Rhino or Revit, right? It's as simple as that. It's not this like nascent, you need to have a PhD in both computation or in both computer science and architecture. It's just knowing that you can drive different portions of the work that we do in different applications strictly through data. And so what you're seeing here is, for instance, because it was important for us as a design team to kind of obviously iterate on the profile curves of this feature, right? And so you need to be able to flex that. And how do you do that? Well, you build it, you build this kind of flexibility using tools that are out there and available, like Rhino. And specifically, this is purely driven through a Grasshopper model. And for those of you who don't know what Grasshopper and Rhino are, they're a very fluid NURBS-based modeling system that lets you, again, flex within a design space, be able to kind of iterate via almost like sketching, so there are no constraints. That's one of the fundamental things with Revit is that it is primarily constraint driven. So it's going to tell you that you cannot host a wall unless you have a floor or a slab. It's going to tell you that you cannot have this sort of pitched roof unless you're meeting X, Y, and Z requirements, which when you're getting down to the thick of it and you're trying to ensure that what you are constructing, what you're designing makes sense relative to how we build it and what we can build, it's great for those sorts of things. But when you're in this kind of design play space, when you have a client who tells you, hey, like, I'm really jiving with you, like I like you as a group, but this design needs to maybe get a little bit more to the vision that I'm seeing in my head, you need this sort of iteration capability that, creating a scripted or algorithmically based model allows you to have.
Yeah. And that's really the thing, right? Like, is how flexible can we be to address what the client's asking us to do? And for us, that's client service. Bringing the client on for the design journey, including them, they're part of the discussion. And that's is something that's fundamental to how we practice design and architecture. It's not my idea, and when I say mine, I don't mean literally mine, but Perkins&Will or our team's idea. It is a collaboration with the client. What did they want from this space, and how do we help them as architects translate that and get them to see the vision that they've got in their heads, like physically see the vision. And so, being able to do this, being able to show them this, I mean, for them to be able to see this way before it's built and go, oh, well, that's nice. I like how this is going to look, and get them excited about their space is really amazing. It's amazing. And then they agree to this, and then you get a GC on board, and he says, well, no, can't build this.
Yeah.
It's too complicated. It's going to cost too much money. The schedule's going to get busted. And the client's going, how did you present something like this to me? If it can't be built, and you're like, okay, calm down. Everybody calm down. Chill, literally, because after we got Mario's help to get all these various iterations, what we discovered is that we could use this same data and all the information that we'd spent building to disassemble it, to show the GC, okay, you think it's complicated? No, it's not. Here's how we can simplify it for you.
Right.
Here's all the various iterations. Here's the portions of it that are standard. So you can have a standard die, and you can cut 50 of these, which are all the same. Here are the portions of it that are different. So you only have to do them so many times. Here's how you do it. It's double-sided. Here's what you put in the middle. And so for them to be able to see how this could be put together, almost like a set of Legos, like here are all the component parts. Here's how you put it together. Here's how fast you can put it together. Now price it, right? It empowered them. Like it gave the GC, suddenly it was like, oh, maybe this isn't as complicated as I think it is. It gave the sub a language that they could understand, because we took what Mario did, and the sub said, we need this in CAD. We can't understand anything of what you're saying. Show it to us in CAD in a flat 2-dimensional drawing, and then we can tell you what we can do. And so we did. We gave it to the GC, who gave it to the sub. They ran it through the machines, and then they came back and said, oh, yeah, okay, this is pretty cool, and it's not as frightening as we thought it was. Maybe we can do this. And so for me at that point, I mean, I always kind of knew if we got a collaborator and a partnership with Mario, we could do something that the client would understand and accept and buy off. But what was eye-opening for me is how we could use the same information we'd created to get the GC to buy it. And that was powerful, right? Because you suddenly now have a GC who wants to do this. They suddenly think, oh, well, this is going to be cool on my portfolio too. I'm going to be able to showcase this when it's done, and I'm going to be able to say I've done something that's unusual. And so that
gets into the meat or the heart of what really kind of, or how computational design approaches can really do help our kind of approach with our quality of care with our clients, right? It's that, and this is where I might nerd out just a little bit, but for the most part, the way that we kind of view things within Perkins&Will, within digital practice, and within our kind of computational group is that we try to be as data agnostic as we possibly can. And what that means is that we don't necessarily need to care where something was generated from. So in this instance, and what I'm showing here is our interoperability efforts that came into play too, right? Because as we mentioned before in the past, there's well over 2,800 people at Perkins&Will. This project is wonderful. It is fantastic. It is a thing of beauty. But the approach here, when we were kind of designing the scripts, designing the models or the parametric models themselves, and designing the workflows, because those also get designed. it was important to us that what we do are not one-offs. They're not singulars. It's not this project or this workflow is specific to Nirmala's project. It's this workflow we can now use and leverage across all other project typologies that are similar in scope to this. And we do implement this across the board at all projects, or sorry, at all studios, I should say. And that kind of data interoperability layer is super important to us because, again, like we are, well, how can I put this? We are trying to make sure that we can work with other people, other clients, consultants who are also on Revit. And so that ultimately means that we have to work in Revit too. Obviously, there are things that we love in it, but our delivery ultimately, our documentation ultimately kind of it falls into Revit. And so that means that whatever it is that we're designing, whatever it is that we're iterating on, be it in Revit, in Rhino and SketchUp, and whatever next generation design platform comes out there, it all talks to one another.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the role of the computational designer here, is to make sure that we're almost like data translators. We need to make sure that there's interoperability between everything that we do, not only because I care about data and I'm a huge data nerd and computers are cool, but because I care about the project, because we care about the project and we care about that delivery, right? Because ultimately the whole point is to make people enjoy the space, to make people smile. It's not like, this is cool, I love this animation, it's fantastic. Like I have this in a bunch of my other slide decks to be like, this is what computational design can do for you. But if I show this to like my grandma, she's going to be like, what is this? Like, what are you talking about? What you want to show them, and I'm gonna showcase a little bit of this kind of thing here too, in terms of data interoperability. But really, it's just being able to, and again, like, it's not about how much aptitude you have in technology, right? Because our subs, our fabricators, like, dude, the amount of like embedded knowledge, that, like integrated knowledge that they have, and just being able to build, right? Like at least I am always humbled when I'm talking to a fabricator, they have a depth and breadth of knowledge that I probably will never be able to kind of mirror. But our approach to our clients in terms of being empathetic to them doesn't just stop with our clients. It continues with our subs to be like, okay, you're clearly very good at fabricating these things.
Yeah.
Understand that you can only speak in these languages. So we have the resources to be able to translate those things. And so we did that, right? And again, a lot of what computational design is, and a lot of what design is rationalizing. You're trying to make the appropriate kind of design moves to make sure that, again, to Nirmala's point, you're not making like 8 billion unique parts that, some person or a group of people are going to unfortunately have to figure out how to put together, right? We're trying to, through the design process, understand kind of easy to navigate assemblies that can be like, that are feasible, which then just kind of ultimately means that this is the cool takeaway. Everybody like,
oh my goodness, Mario, check you out.
Well, this is the, so here's the thing, right? Like, we showed you the white model landscape like a few slides back, and it looks so beautiful and it's so clean and so simple, right? And yet, to get to that point, this is the crazy behind the scenes. This is the crazy behind the scenes. And the part about this is that for me at least, and as telling Mario, every time I see this slide, I tell Mario the same thing. So he's probably sick of hearing me say it. But this is representative for me of what true great design is, right? Like, you experience great design. You don't follow or understand or often even know the effort and the time and the energy that goes into making great design. It's all hidden, it's all seamless. You walk into a space and you experience it and you think, oh, you can't quite articulate what it is. What
Yeah.
is it about that space that's so beautiful? Oftentimes it's very simple. It's the simplicity of the design that has come together cohesively that allows you to have that experience. But in every single instance, this is the crazy that goes into making that design, right? Like you can't get to it without something like this, without being willing to step outside and truly focus on design excellence and say, I'm going to find a solution for something that's important to the design concept, to keep the integrity of the design concept. And sometimes that's a partnership, sometimes that's a collaboration with your colleagues, sometimes it's a collaboration with your colleagues and the sub, which was the case, which was this particular project's case. But if you're willing to sort of keep true to that finding a solution for the design, then you'll find it. You'll find it. You will find it.
Wow. Well said. Very, very cool. My goodness. Is this where we end on this note of the amazing, insane web of
Well,
awesomeness? Or have you got one
sort
or two
of.
more treats for us?
I've had a couple more treats.
Yeah, yeah, bring it on. I'm just like I'm in
For
awe.
sure. But
I
so the
don't know
funny
if I
thing
could
is-
do that, but wow.
The funny thing is, prior to jumping onto this, I was having a conversation with Nirmala about the slide deck, obviously, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, I don't think we should include this slide because it's like, to me, and I'm in the thick of computational design. I'm in the thick of the kind of research end of that sort of thing. I'm in that world, right? And so I see this all the time, and I always see this as like, it's like, whenever people show like these large kind of spaghetti like scripts, it's almost like they're trying to flex it and be like, oh, look what I built.
Yeah.
But like, the reality to me, the beauty to me is like, yes, there is a lot of hard work in every facet of the design process and of the work that we do, right?
Yeah.
And to Nirmala's point, the beauty in the spaces that we create, the beauty in the process is just how seamlessly it goes away and it bleeds away just for the sake of that design. Again, to Nirmala's point. And I love that while this is a lot of hard work, all of this effort was to transform this data into these beautiful spaces, right? Like, ultimately, this is a real thing that, was purpose built for the kind of people, the users of this facility that we've designed, that was meant specifically to give them a space that they can enjoy, they can work around in, they can enjoy one another, right? It's not about, ultimately, all of this is not about the work that we have done. It's about the experiences, the joy that this brings to people.
Client, yeah.
Wow. There you go. So this is it, right? This is
it.
This is it. This is it. This is, it was a simple design element. The client really loved it. We had to find a way to explain it to the contractor, and then we had to find a way to document it. And we did. And because we did, it excited the GC, and they built it. So here we are.
There you go. I mean, I gotta say, I'll do a little virtual or a physical of that because that's so cool, and really appreciate you showing us really from the start to it being built, the whole process, and I think it's really good to demystify it. If you're happy with what I was thinking, I've got one or two when I was watching cool questions because
absolutely.
It feels like this in one sense. It's a true collaboration between you both. Which you in the UK is what we would call like a design architect, the job runner, and then Mario is kind of like the computer specialist. And then what we joke about, this isn't it, rather than there being like the geek in the matrix in the corner and the architect over here, you two have come together to make this work. Now, my tutor back in the day would go like, do not let the tools dictate the outcome of the project. In this, it very much feels like the project that was the vision,
Mhm.
and the tools and all that crazy cool stuff was there to enable the vision. Is that how you felt it as well? It wasn't the BIM
Absolutely.
libraries, the Revit libraries
Mm-mm.
confining it. It was the opposite
Yeah.
then, yeah?
It was literally that. I mean, it was literally, you know, because we knew what we were trying to get to. The design element and the vision for that was very clear.
Yeah.
And you know, I have to credit this client. It's unfortunate we cannot mention their name, but I have to credit this client.
Yeah.
They were true design champions. They wanted to
cool.
do good design. They wanted to do cool things. They had a budget. They had a budget, and every client has a budget. But they wanted us to push the envelope in that budget, and they supported us in that. And so it was about, how do we get to this design vision? That was really the thing.
No, fair enough. Now,
And-
if it's cool, Mario, sorry, you go
Oh, no.
go for it.
Absolutely. Sorry,
would-
I want to get this a little bit off my chest. So I
Please
think
share with the audience to tell Autodesk what you feel. It's okay.
I might be scared. I have no idea what is lined up, but we'll find out.
It's live, so just
Yeah.
try not to get us kicked off LinkedIn. And other than that, you're good.
For sure. No, I think we're good. My hot take on this is that I think as computational designers, for every computational designer out there, it's great to be kind of embedded into the technology, to be kind of enraptured by it. But
Yeah.
it is the approach that we take fundamentally has to be one of like couched in empathy, right?
Yeah.
And so I approach my kind of computational design assistance with primarily empathy. I go to the design team. I ask them, what is their vision? Not what is it that you're currently having a problem with, or like, because, and that's the case with everything, right? I hate when project teams, and not specifically at Perkins&Will, but just in general, are like, well, we can't do this because the software is not letting us, or it's just not the way that we're supposed to design in this thing. It's like, I don't care. The reason that I chose to kind of embed myself in this world is specifically because I wanted to break software and make it, like, bend it to my will, bend it to our design staff's will, because ultimately I don't want technology to guide design. I want designers and architects to guide design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mario, you realize you are Neo in this analogy, right? You have,
no, but I chased the rabbit
broken the code.
So I don't.
I love it. I'm a Matrix. It is cool. Maybe because I think the presentation was so good. I have one question for each of you, if that's cool.
Yeah.
In your different roles. So I was thinking, first of all, Nirmala, compared to before, you know, sometimes as an architect, you think, oh, the techie stuff, I'm not too sure of it. Having gone through this now, has it kind of blown open your mind on what tech can do to enable cool ideas going forward?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think I've always been a person that knows that technology can support some of the things I want to do. You know, in my role as a design manager, and I don't, you know, I manage design these days more than actually do it. But in my role as design manager these days, I have to walk a fine line between telling younger designers, I don't know if you can do that. and then finding a solution where they can see their visions come to life. And so this was a perfect example, right? Like the designers had an idea, and I knew I had to make it work, and I didn't have a tool to make it work till I collaborated with Mario and then explained the challenges and where we were trying to get to, and then we got to it. And so for me, it's always about that. It's always about keeping the design integrity, keeping that design vision, and then going out and trying to find, you know, in this instance, it was Mario and Rhino and Grasshopper and all of that helped me. But in other instances, it'll be something else. But, you know, to come back to what I'd said earlier, if you keep design excellence in integrity of design concept at the foundation of everything you do, you'll find that partner, whether that's technology, a person, your sub, whatever it is, it'll show up.
For sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and it's exciting to think about where the future of design with AI would go.
Oh, you're almost stealing my question from Mario in a
Sorry.
good way.
Okay.
No, I love it. Let's build on that because no, it's perfect. So what I was going to say to you, Mario, because this is kind of looking back at you doing this awesome project, a little bit in the past to the present.
Yeah.
I've seen how far things have come already.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you got a feel for where do you think this is going in your gut instinct, because we're seeing a lot with AI, the tech. Are you feeling positive about where it's going, or do you have any predictions on where we'll go in the next few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel very positive for our kind of design future, right? In terms of incorporating all of the tool sets, all of the capabilities that like as a for instance LLM models can give us, right? As a for instance kind of segmenting and AI visioning, right? Like that to me is like super exciting, not because we're going to be relying on AI to design our buildings. It's more that, and it's how we're approaching, utilizing AI currently within Perkins&Will. It's where are these kind of micro moments in the work that we're doing that like nobody really likes to do, or like just takes more time away from the stuff that we actually want to do. So like, I don't know, it's a dumb thing. It's like meeting minutes. Everybody like kind of hates meeting minutes, right? But like now that I no longer take meeting minutes,
Correct.
and like I have meeting minutes done for me. Of course, I trust but verify is the thing, right? Always ensure, like go through. You were in the meeting, look through the meetings. If you see something off, make sure you kind of correct those things. But same thing with renderings, right? Like being able to toss a kind of Rhino viewport or a Revit viewport like screenshot into something like Comfy UI with a few prompts, generating kind of visions of what we want it to look like or be instantaneously or near instantaneously, let's say. I think that is something that is like fundamentally going to accelerate what it is that we can kind of iterate on and better point us to the direction that we need to go or want to go much, much faster in the process, right? Because that's always the case. That's always the problem, is that we pick a lane, we pick a kind of avenue, and we, our primary kind of finite resource is time. And once we find that in pre-concept, or God forbid you're an SD and you've gone too far and you have to pull back. But if you would have used something like, I mean, not if, but if it, using tools like Comfy UI and like image generation would have helped you a little bit more along the way to kind of better express those things. In terms of and that's all technology now. Anyone can go online, grab that stuff, use it in the work that they're doing now. In terms of the future, there's a lot to be said about, again, going back to my kind of point of what we do as architects, as designers, is fundamentally work in data, and being able to kind of understand that now. AI allows us to crunch through a massive amount of data and make very good sense of it. And the real phenomenal thing, again, at Perkins&Will is that we are a test lab of data because we're constantly making it and generating it, and we can utilize that to better help our support staff, or our staff in general, I should say. All from, and we're experimenting with these along the way. Like, generally speaking, if you consider the work that we deliver, it's almost always flat and two-dimensional things, right? And Rob Otani out of Thornton Tomasetti always said, and this past week, or past 2 weeks at AEC Tech in New York City, mentioned that, it's kind of silly that we do all of this work to build up three-dimensional data, four-dimensional data, just a lot of information into the models that we build. And then at the end of the day, what we deliver is a flattened, cut out, dumbed down, dead document that we deliver to people. And then we need to try to coordinate those things. And the idea of model as a deliverable has always been the kind of bastion of hope for BIM. BIM's been around for 29 on 30 years now, and that's still not something that has fundamentally delivered. So I think that AI will help us kind of get to that point of being able to deliver models a little bit better.
Fair enough. Well, I'm excited for it. Hilarious when you say BIM's been around for 30 years, because I'm sure many architects will look at you and go, "No chance of being been doing it for a few." But it is true,
Oh yeah,
and you know, even computational design in that way has been around for a while. But it's so cool
absolutely. Yeah.
to see where we are. I mean, I've really enjoyed this. However, I always think before we go, I like to flip it around. I'm asking all the questions. Not fair. Maybe you two have a quick 1 or 2 questions for me. I'd love to answer it. I have no idea what you're going to say, so feel free, jump in.
Mario, do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, my whole thing is going to be big. Where do you think AI is going to take this space?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. I couldn't agree more. In my business, I use AI to do all the mundane stuff, help me get going, get ideas going. And in that, I think it's a great enabler. And I don't think the role of an architect at all will ever go. I just think the things might change. I mean, yes, when I was, so in the UK, it's called a part 1, but you know, a grad, I would be there doing the mock-ups for ages, and now yes, Adobe can do that quickly.
Yeah.
But I think it shifts on what you can do, and so I'm hopeful that the architect will be able to spend more time on design, more time, you know, basically steering the ship on the project, dealing with all the crazy stuff, and then AI can do the mundane stuff. I think it's very, 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 very useful. Even for marketing, I always, even for this, I use it as the first prompt to do, because I'm not a writer. And that's the thing, is like architects, the skill set we have, you have to do everything, don't you? Remember when you're studying, it's like, I've got to write an essay, I've got to do a project. It's like too much. And I wasn't good at the essay bit. So do you know what? In this sense, it helps me. But I was good at that bit. And also, you know, you got to laugh because I didn't like doing the physical models, but I love doing the you know, the late.
Well, now you've got 3D printers then.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, shortcut. But, you know, so I'm hopeful, as you just said, it'll be like a virtual PA, EA for architects to do stuff. Do I think that AI will do the role of an architect? Maybe I'm naive, and Elon Musk was saying 30 years it'll change, but right now I don't see it happening, but I do see it helping architectural business as a whole a lot. Did I answer your question right, Matt? Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I've got the zinger from down here. Oh, down here. Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm curious in terms of sort of the, you know, when you try to draw out a story on your podcast and in the live stream, what do you like when you're thinking about it? What's the thread you're trying to pull on and trying to achieve? Yeah.
A good question, because I mean, we had the pre-chat before, isn't it? So I guess the way you've shown me the process of like your projects, I'll show you the process. So I'm a little bit unconventional, as in you had an amazing presentation. I thought, you know what, I'll just try my best to listen and go along with it. And I think part of it is trying to listen. It is hard when you got things flashing around and you're like, but you have to just try and listen. And then I think it gets easier. The other thing is I'm a big believer in a little bit of spontaneity. So when you're in crits in the UK, they call it, but you know, when you pitch in an architecture for a project, you know, some people read the project out and they go, my project is a commercial design thing for and it's really disengaging, you know. And so and I've got 1 or 2 events coming up, and sometimes the guests get very nervous and want to script, and I almost have to try and bash it out of them to go, no, we're just going to almost wing it, which to some architects can be totally horrifying, because they're like, whoa, you do not wing it. How can you do it? This is going to be a disaster. And actually, the more tricky ones are academics, you know, because they even though I love academics, but what I mean is, it's about that's what they're used to, getting it right, getting the course down. Whereas I think actually the more you kind of go off, I think it helps. So the way I've learned it now is, so there's generally 2 or 3 points, and you kind of weave in between. And I think that's more engaging. It's more conversational. So that's kind of what I do. And that's the secret. So it's almost deconstructing it a little bit. And I think the worst thing you can do is overplan it, have these things. I mean, we have some questions to hand over here. Have I looked at them? No, not really. But if I needed them, they're there. But it's okay. You can just kind of go and then enjoy it. So that's the secret to it. Oh, and the last thing I learned on that is it's not about me. And that sounds a bit crazy, because what we do as human beings, when we're nervous, we fill the stage with stuff, right? And it's not because we want to take attention. Maybe one or two people do, but it's just because we're human. We want to fill the void. And what I've learned is actually it's okay to take a step back. So in a few earlier podcasts I would try to interject with something clever all the time, and just really to kind of feel like you're there. But actually, no one cares about my little thought on that. So I actually just try to, I don't know. So for me, this has all been about the project, the collaboration. That's kind of cool. Get a sense of you guys. And that's the only other thing that I've taken away. So a short sermon on how to do public speaking, learning wrong ways, but that's my secret. Does that make sense?
I love it. It sure does. It sure does. And I'm happy that, you talked about how we collaborated in the story we had to share, and I appreciate that we got the platform to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, I mean, I appreciate you being here. On that note, before I do something wrong, which I probably will do at this, maybe I should wrap it up, end on a good note. That's the other thing that I think we can do. So I'm probably going to end it here. However, before we go, what I'd love you to do is tell anyone in the audience. So if they get excited by this, they want to reach out or collaborate or whatever, ask a question, maybe pick Mario's brain on Grasshopper version 2.60 update, or, get a bit more information about Perkins&Will. Where can the audience find you both?
My email address is my first and last name with a dot in between at perkinsandwill.com. So perkinswill.com.
Very smart, Mario, that you didn't say it out in case the spammers go for it. But
exactly.
Thinking power there.
Anyone in here who's currently viewing or views this later on and wants to ask questions, wants to reach out, I think education, mentorship, apprenticeship is fundamentally one of the most important things within the kind of world of architecture. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm available, and I love teaching.
Oh, how selfless of you. So super, super cool. And Nirmala, where can people find you?
I don't have my full name up on the screen, which is a bit of a shame. But
that's all right.
But to Mario's point, I'm on the website, and if you reach out to the Dallas office, I'm based in the Dallas studio. You can find me there. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to me, my last name is Srinivasa. And I'll spell that if you're listening. It's Srinivasa, Perkins&Will Dallas. You can find me on LinkedIn. And then, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to, to talk to people who want to reach out. And like Mario says, we do focus a lot on mentorship. So happy to do that too.
Very, very cool. Well, brilliant. And the last thing, I was going to put the link up here. So www.perkinswill.com. You can be amazed at how many offices you guys have around the world. So cool. I love it. I need an excuse. Maybe next time I'll see if I can make a case to record this in person so that I get a trip to the States and see you all.
Love it. We love it.
You are welcome. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Well, yeah, thank you so much. But stay on the stage for 1 second, guys. Just stay there. And I'm going to end in 1 second. But the last thing I want to say is to you in the audience, if you've got to this point, what a legend. You've done the hour. This is the final chapter. You got the contact details of the guys. Now you can drop them a message. I really appreciate you in the audience, but also the guests. So thank you so much. More content coming soon. I can't remember what it is, but it will be as good as this. I'm sure it will be. This was pretty good. We got more cool content coming soon. I'm going to end this now. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, morning, wherever you are. Really appreciate you tuning in. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.